Square-Enix is kinda betting the farm on the success of Final Fantasy XV, with a feature film, anime series, and mobile game tie-ins all hooked into their flagship series' latest installment. Some of these make sense, as they serve to flesh out a world and story they've spent a decade creating and aim to pull players into. Just recently, they announced a reboot/sequel to their 1986 genre mashup King's Knight for mobile, which ties into Final Fantasy XV somehow, although all we've seen so far is the game's characters sitting around playing it on their phones. I've had King's Knight on my shelf for a while now, and I've never really spent much time with it because I just kinda wrote it off as a mess based on my first impressions. But the announcement of the remake kinda sparked my interest, and I wanted to give it another shot. I mean, was I wrong? Had I been missing something? Let's find out. King's Knight was released in 1986 for the Famicom and 1989 for the NES. For most people, they see an NES game with the Square logo on it, cover art featuring a knight, a princess, and a group of RPG stereotypes, and they get excited because they assume they know what they're getting. And they're wrong. King's Knight isn't an RPG, at least not in the traditional sense. It's a vertically scrolling shooter set in a fantasy world where you control one of 4 different heroes: Ray-Jack the Knight, Kaliva the Wizard, Barusa the Monster, and Toby the Thief. Similar to Little Samson or Dragon Quest IV, each hero has their own stage to beat before the party unites for the final stage to take on the evil dragon and save Princess Claire. Yep, the game only has 5 stages. Easy, right? Wrong. Wrong. So very, very wrong. For one thing, the game is punishingly difficult. Not only do you have enemies and their attacks to dodge, but the scenery as well, which you need to destroy to uncover power-ups. It's easy to lose track of where you are sometimes and get pinned between an obstacle in the bottom of the screen and die from the auto-scrolling. Each of the 4 stages is really, really hard on its own, and if any hero dies, you won't have them available for the final stage. Even if you do get everyone to stage 5 alive, unless you manage to find all of their spell tokens hidden in each prior stage, you literally can't even make it to the boss. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Scattered throughout each stage are a variety of power-ups, like orbs that increase your attack, shields that increase your defense, boots that make you move faster, and springs that let you jump onto scenery rather than be crushed by it. This is where the RPG aspect comes in, as each power-up counts as a level for your character. There are also life up and life down pickups, as well as the aforementioned spell tokens. You'll need 4 for each character to be able to use their trademark spell, and even then you can only use each spell once per game, so you'll need to know exactly when to use it, which is in Stage 5. In addition, each stage has a hidden dungeon chock full of power-ups. These are really tough to find, even tougher to navigate, and as the cherry on top, are necessary because each one contains a spell token. What this all means is that unless you play absolutely perfectly and know where to find every spell token and dungeon entrance, you literally can't even make it to the final boss, and the game's unbeatable. So let's recap. The game is extremely hard, hides objects necessary to beat the game, and it requires you to mash A so much that if you don't have a controller with rapid fire, your thumb will literally explode. How the heck am I going to have anything nice to say about this game? A lot of people write off King's Knight as pure garbage, but I think it requires looking at the game with a different mindset. Yeah, a game as vague as this that's hiding so much on top of a steep difficulty kinda smacks of bad game design. I'd argue that it's not necessarily bad game design though, just outdated game design that's very firmly planted in the time the game was developed. This is back when games were all about challenge and exploration, and above all, practice. You only got a few games a year, so you really had to get your money's worth, and King's Knight definitely rewards those virtues. You see, while it is frustrating having to find so much in order to beat the game, the stage layouts and power-ups are consistent, not randomly generated, so once you find something, you know where it is for every subsequent playthrough. If you're not into trial and error, you can study some maps online to find where the items are. Or, if you're like me, you can resort to Game Genie codes in order to make yourself invincible so you can capture enough footage to make a compelling video. It's good to have options. And hey, the game does throw you one little bone at least. If you die on stage 5, if you press select on the title screen, you can choose to go back to any prior stage to get what you missed before attempting the final stage again. Isn't that nice? But after taking a good, hard second look at King's Knight, and taking the time to learn what it really is and what it's trying to do, it's hard not to have some appreciation for it. It's very much a game designed for people who like to dedicate themselves to a single game until they've mastered it. The kind of player who just loves to fully sink themselves into a challenge and not give up until it's absolutely conquered. While I am not that player, I fully respect King's Knight and have gained a much higher appreciation for it after putting preconceived notions aside and really giving it a shot. The consistent stage layouts and small number of stages total shows that the intent all along was to encourage exploration through repeated playthroughs. Lots of games on the NES had similar design philosophies, and King's Knight doesn't seem to get a pass where other games have. I'm really glad I gave it another shot, because even though it's not really my style of game, I think it's a super neat idea and something I feel good recommending to people. And the remake looks really good! Rajak, Kaliva, Barusa, and Toby are all back with new, modern designs, and it looks like there are even more party members to join up with. When the remake was first announced, I got snarky on Twitter just like most people did. But I decided to pop the game back in and see if I was wrong. And I was. King's Knight is definitely not for everybody, but even if you're not the hardest of the hardcore, it's still worth looking into even just as a curiosity because it's only going to cost you a couple dollars. And it's kind of easy to roll your eyes at all that Square-Enix is putting into Final Fantasy XV, but I think there's a lot of just genuine love and interest in making a great game and great series again, and I think digging back into the archives to bring back a game that's so unfairly reviled as King's Knight shows that. So why not give it another try and see if you were wrong too? Well, that's all I got for today, so until next time, remember, love games, love yourselves, and love each other.